I do. And the H5 is running. I'm going to move this window over here. There we go. Perhaps I should move the chat window over here to this screen. That's true. I'm not by myself. Good point, Barbara. You are all with me. I do feel like I'm not alone. I know that I always have my trusty chat room with me. Solo on the trumpet. It's been a long time for that too, Nev. Yeah, quite some time. That was probably at least 3 years ago that I played solo trumpet. I think I played in a wedding. Yeah, a wedding at my old parish church with an organ. So it wasn't really solo, but it was sort of solo. Okay. To stay listening or not to stay listening? Well, get out of here, Owen. Don't waste your time. Oh, you need to get to sleep. You can always listen to the show. You know what? This is the cool thing. This podcasting thing, you actually can listen to it after I actually record it. Seriously. Yeah. I didn't know if you knew that or not. But you can. Okay. In fact, I'd say 99.9% of the people that listen to the show listen to it after we've recorded it. It's amazing. No, don't. Owen, go to sleep, please. Now you're going to make me feel guilty. Go to sleep. You need to be all rested up for that job of yours. Okay. Let's see here. Let's do some sound checks. And
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger. LA to 123.9. Roger.
That's using one soundboard. Let me look at this one here.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger. LA to 123.9.
Probably use that one. Okay. Make sure the rim shot ready. Thank you. How about the crickets? Am I going to play the crickets on myself? I might.
Does you dig that? No? Oh. Let's dig it. I thought you said your dog did not bite. That is not my dog.
Yes, Owen, that is a piano behind me. It is a digital. It's a Kawai ES110. They're a brand new model. I broke down and bought one about a month ago. And that's because I have a beautiful upright, professional upright Kawai upstairs, like right over there. But it's in the main part of the house, and it's hard for me to get up there and play without disturbing people. And so this allows me to plug in headphones, and I can play to my heart's content late into the night when everybody's sleeping. I can still be playing Chopin or Mozart or Clemente or Ben Oakland, Java Jive, or Elton John or Billy Joel, something like that. Anyway, let's see. I play, Rebecca. I play. Who plays? Give me a break. Here, should I play a little bit of... hang on. Don't know if you'll be able to hear this. Hey. Now see, I'm under pressure. I can't do it. wasting time. I'll probably get a copyright violation for that. Still a little rusty. Haven't played really keyboard for many, many years, so I'm trying to get my fingers and my brain to get back working together. And let's see, happy Cinco de Mayo. This is my my tribute to this special day. We'll talk about that in a minute. In the meantime, I guess I should do this. Yes, Delta P. Here's to the Battle of Puebla in 1862, 155 years ago. I do not like Corona. Ugh. I guess it's good if you're eating tortilla chips and guacamole and enchiladas and tacos. But by itself, ugh, ugh. Okay, let's see here. Let me look at my notes. And I think I'm ready. So, I know it's late for you over there in the UK, and so I don't want to keep you up too late. It's a Friday night after all, right? Another Friday night, and no, wait a minute. That's Saturday night. Another Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. Anyway, let's see here. All right. I'm just going to do it. I'll start a new recording. Get an accurate time count. And here we go. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 270.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger. LA, good morning. 123.9.
Roger. Less than.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, a view from my side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 1A in the APG headquarters building in a northern Atlanta suburb. In this episode, a California man sentenced to prison for flying a jet without a license. 2 people dead after air cargo carrier's short 330 crashes up at Charleston, West Virginia. China's C-19 makes its first flight. That, more news, your feedback. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. Flight 270 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. This is an aviation podcast. I'm your host, a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. And normally this is where I introduce the co-hosts or co-pilots for the show, but today, no, sadly, I'm by myself. This is the way I used to do the show, by myself. And the last couple of years, I've had the APG crew to help me along, give different perspectives, and just have a lot of fun, just gabbing, talking aviation and other things. But now here we are back the way that I used to do it, old school, solo. And I have to be honest with you, it does feel a little bit different. It feels a little odd. But anywho, this is a show where it's not very professional. We don't take ourselves very seriously, or I don't take myself seriously at all. I'm just here to talk about aviation, to give my views on various things happening in the aviation news, and also trying to help out with answering some of your feedback, giving advice and that kind of thing. And before we move on, I think it's very important that we should make note of the fact that I'm recording this on the 5th of May, 2017. And we in the United States and also some parts of Mexico celebrate this day as the Cinco de Mayo. Get your margaritas, your tequila, your Coronas.
Cinco de Mayo is holiday time. We honor the culture of Mexico. Cinco de Mayo is holiday time. To a fiesta we'll go, 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 la 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 la, go, 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 la 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 la.
Oh, I guess I don't know the song very well. Okay, so Cinco de Mayo, where, as it said in the song, the parts of the United States and, well, all of the United States and Mexico. It's kind of like St. Patrick's Day here in the U.S. Not too many people here are Irish, but we like to think of ourselves as Irish on St. Patrick's Day every year. And we go out and drink lots and lots of alcohol and beer, spirits, that kind of thing, make fools of ourselves. I guess it's sort of the same thing with the Cinco de Mayo. We now all consider ourselves Mexicans, and specifically from the Puebla area of Mexico. And let's see, on this day, the Mexican Army's unlikely victory over French forces took place at the Battle of Puebla on May 5th, 1862, 155 years ago. In the United States, Cinco de Mayo has grown in popularity and evolved into a celebration of Mexican culture and heritage. So there you go. I'm doing my part, and I'm glad that you're all able to celebrate with me. Okay. So let's move on to what's been happening. We don't have to hear from, well, first of all, I should say that Dr. Steph she may actually be listening to us right now. I think her flight departs Charlotte at 6 o'clock, so she's probably listening right now. Hi, Steph. Miss you. So she wasn't able to join us. Captain Nick is in one of his favorite layover destinations, and that is Lagos, Nigeria. And he is, I'm sure, having a great time over there, and he tested his bandwidth and found it to be seriously lacking. So he is not able to join us either. And then, of course, Dana. We all know that Dana is a big motorcycle rider, specifically Harley Davidson, a very popular brand here in the U.S. And he is down in Panama City, I believe. They have a bike week down there this week. And so that's where he is. So again, he's not able to join us for the show. So it's basically me and my fellow loyal fans and listeners in the chat room, the live chat. By the way, if you've not done it before, you should follow us on Twitter at APG Crew. I'm also at Airline Pilot Guy on Twitter, and also the Facebook Airline Pilot Guy. We'll put out a little post to let you know that we're going to be recording live, and then you can tune in via the airlinepilotguy.com website, the live page, or just use the link that I put in the tweet. Head over to YouTube, our YouTube channel, and here we are recording live, and we have a great chat room, and it's a lot of fun to hang out with those great folks in the chat room. So as I mentioned, or I may not have mentioned this, maybe I've mentioned it before I started recording live, but earlier today, it's been a big day for aviation podcasts. Dispatcher Mike started off with the recording of Flying and Life this morning, and then had a little bit of a break, and then the Plane Talking UK guys, Carlos and Matt, took over, and Owen was one of the special guest today on the show. And they also had a special call-in guest, Carlene Pettit, and it was a very interesting interview with her. So great show. You should check out those two podcasts. They are amongst many, many great aviation podcasts out there. So I'm just happy that I can be a part of this day as well. Now, on Mike's show, he talked a little bit about recent bad behavior. And let's see if this works. Nope, that's the wrong B. I was going to hopefully play Bad Boys. Let me find that over here somewhere. Okay.
Bad boys, what you want?
Yeah, bad boys. We like to play that on the APG when there is a little bit of bad behavior, especially bad behavior aboard airplanes. And in the past few weeks, we've had a lot of bad behavior, and recently some more, especially a couple of instances on Delta Airlines. One in which a flight had to return to the gate and remove a passenger because this person decided to get up and use the bathroom. Now, I'm thinking when I read the account of this that there must be more to it than just the guy getting up to use the bathroom, being told that he needs to sit down, gets up, tries to go to the bathroom again, and they say, okay, that's it, we're going to go ahead and return to the gate. Now, do you really think that the captain is going to turn the airplane around and inconvenience every single person aboard that airplane just to make a point and get this guy off the jet? No. There is more to the story. I don't know all the details, but they must have thought that this guy was a security threat, or perhaps his telling of the story wasn't quite ringing true. But you know how things are in the aviation world and in news and journalism and all that kind of stuff. They don't always quite get the story right, either because they don't bother to really dig deep and get the story right, or because maybe the information that they're being fed is incorrect. But so I'm sure that that 99.9% of the captains that I know, including myself, in that situation, and it happens to us, it's not uncommon that we get a call from the flight attendant saying, or one of the flight attendants saying, hey, one of the passengers just got up to go to the bathroom. And then I'll say, well, okay, let me know when that person is back in their seat. And if necessary, we'll let ground control or the tower know that we have to pull ourselves out of the lineup and, be stationary until this person returns to their seat. And then when everybody is seated with their seatbelts fastened, the flight attendant will give us a call and say, okay, Jeff, everybody is seated, the cabin is secure, we're good to go. And then we'll tell ground control, okay, our situation is over, and now we'd like to be resequenced, and then we get back in line and we go. So that's the way these kind of things are usually conducted. And in this case, again, had to be more to the story for the flight to return to the gate. And then also another one on Delta, a young family traveling. I think they bought 5 tickets. One of the people with one of those tickets, one of the adult folks in the family, took another flight, an earlier flight or whatever. I don't know if it was another airline, another flight, whatever. But one of those 5 seats was not going to be used. And the man and his wife and 2 youngsters, one 1-year-old and one 2 years old, decided that they were going to use all of the seats, including the 5th seat that they had purchased. However, they really didn't purchase that 5th seat because that person used that seat on another flight. So I don't know why they assumed that the seat would be left open and not filled. For those of you who have flown recently, you know that there's hardly ever a case where there's going to be an empty seat on an airplane. And also, I guess there was a misunderstanding. The 1-year-old child was a lap child, and the lap child means that, guess what? It stays in your lap, unless, of course, there happens to be an empty seat. And if that's the case, then the small child can be situated in the separate seat with a authorized or approved, what do you call those things? Child seats. However, they just thought that they were entitled to that seat in that space, and so again, it seems like a little bit of misunderstanding of the rules of how all that works. And so again, I'm sure we're not hearing all the details in all these stories. And I have to tell you, I just flew a 2-day trip and a 3-day trip, so 5 days in a row, and it really wiped me out, I have to tell you. But I was talking with a lot of folks, like other flight attendants and other crew members, and also a lot of gate agents, and they were taking me to the side saying, man, it has been crazy. I don't know what is up in this world, what is going on with these passengers, but everybody is spring-loaded to be offended, to feel like their rights are not being realized or whatever. People are like immediately throwing out their cell phones to take video of something that potentially could erupt into a major incident. And she said that it's really getting out of hand, and she's hoping, or they are hoping, that over a little time here that things will start settling down. But it's spring, and the temperatures are warming up here in the northern hemisphere, and it won't be long here in the United States where we're getting really warm temperatures and cramming a lot of people in very warm, very tight spaces, and it's going to be it's going to be difficult. So I'm hoping that people will start using their heads and staying cool, at least as far as their behavior is concerned. So we shall see. But I've never seen so many employees at my airline be so concerned about what's happening lately. So I'm hoping that this trend will reverse and things will get back under control. Now, my second trip this week, the Tuesday through Thursday trip, I had the great fortune to meet up with one of the APG community members, Nick Acosta. He's been around for almost since the beginning. In fact, maybe he has been there the whole time. But on our early meetups in Miami, even before there was such a thing as Miami Rick, Nick was there and was present at those early meetups in the Miami area. And he contacted me through Facebook and said, "Hey, if you're down here anytime soon, let me know and we'll get together." And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I'll be in Fort Lauderdale. I know it's not really super convenient to you in Miami, but I'll be relatively close by." He said, "That sounds great. After work, I'll head over to your hotel, pick you up, and we'll go somewhere and have a meal." So that's what we did. And it was great to see Nick. And we had a great seafood dinner at a little hole-in-the-wall place. I think it's called the Southport Raw Bar, not too far from our hotel. And we got all caught up. Nick is working for an outfit called Atlas Airlines, or Atlas Air, not sure what the formal name is, but that's an airline that some of you may be familiar with. One of our crew members works at that great company we call Acme Giant, and he is in the dangerous goods department, and he was telling me all about what his duties and responsibilities are there. So that was pretty cool to talk about all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so great to see you, Nick, if you happen to be listening. Hope to meet up with you again soon. Okay, now let's talk about more exciting things like wings over Pittsburgh. Yes, it is. Believe it or not, we've been talking about it for more than a year, and now it is basically a week away. Today's Friday, and next Friday, the 12th of May, many of the people that are going to be in Pittsburgh for the air show are going to be already there. I'm planning on arriving on Wednesday afternoon. A lot of folks are coming in on Thursday, and then of course the air show itself is going to be Saturday and Sunday, and Saturday night is when we're having our APG live podcast recording with all of our AvGeek podcast friends as well, including great folks from the Airplane Geeks podcast. We have, of course, Matt and Carlos from the PTUK. We have a bunch of people coming. Can't name them all, but there are going to be a bunch of folks with us. Of course, Micah and Brian, they're going to be kind of part of the Airplane Geeks podcast contingent. And let's see, am I missing anybody? We have the PTUK guys and a bunch of folks like our representative from NevTech Industries. He's in the chat room right now. The wonderful Nev of NevTech, going to be helping us out with the audio technical stuff. And boy, many people that I'm looking at right now in the chat room. Barbara, Parrish flying over from the UK. Rebecca Saylor, she's not too far, I believe, from that area. She's going to be coming in with some of her family. Let's see. I'm not sure about Jeff Ward, if you're going to be there or not. I know main man Micah. Captain Al is going to be there. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, Pilot Pip is not going to be. He has some kind of a very weak excuse, something about camping inside of whales, which I don't know about you, but that does not sound like something I'd ever want to do, because I know that when you're around fish, especially really, really large fish, it's really, really smelly, stinky. And why? I hope that the whales that they're going to be camping in are dead whales, and that's going to make it even worse, really. But live whales, I mean, that seems like it'd be kind of dangerous. So, see what I mean? Very weak excuse, Captain or Pilot Pip. But anyway, we're going to miss you. Let's see. Yeah, Micah says, "There she blows." His excuse blows. It's what blows. Okay. Anyway, bunch of people. I mean, too numerous to name are going to be there, and I'm so excited, and I know that everybody else is as well. Liz is going to be driving in her brand new Ford. What is it? Ford Explorer. I sometimes get that wrong. Escape, maybe. Escape. With the wonderful and infamous Neville the Devil. Good luck with that, Liz. Okay. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked, Jeffrey. Let's get back to our list here. What else did I want to say about the Wings Over Pittsburgh T-shirts? So I decided to be kind of cool. A gift, my gift, to you, all of you who are going to be there in person in Pittsburgh next week, to make these T-shirts. And when I say make these T-shirts, I don't mean order them and then somebody else prints them. I am printing them myself. If I had I could turn my camera around, I could show you the equipment that I have here in the Studio 1A. It's not only podcasting equipment, it's also printing equipment. I have screen printing equipment, heat transfer, heat press equipment, and that's what I'm going to do. I just put in the order today. Hopefully you got your t-shirt order in before I made my order with the company. And I'll be getting the blank camouflage shirts in hopefully on Monday, because it's going to take me some time to print up a much larger number of T-shirts than I thought they were going to be. And I'm hoping that I'll also get the heat transfers that I ordered a couple days ago. That should be those should be coming in today or tomorrow, and then I'll start the press and start making those shirts. So if you are going to be there at the show and you got your order in, then I'll be able to distribute the T-shirt to you when I get there, or when you get there, when we get there. Let's see. Some people were saying, well, what about meetups while we're all in the Pittsburgh area? Basically, most of us are staying very close by the airport, the Pittsburgh International Airport, on the east side of the airport. That's where the 9/11th Reserve Airlift Wing is located, and right across the street from the entrance to that is the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel. Many of us are staying there. I think most of us are staying there. Also, the Embassy Suites nearby and the Sheraton nearby are a couple of other hotels that I know for sure that people are staying. But we'll be, if you just show up to the Courtyard, I'm sure you're going to be able to find somebody in the APG community. And if you want to figure out where we are and such, follow us on Twitter at APG Crew, at Airline Pilot Guy. Also, if you have a smartphone, download the Swarm app, that's SWARM app, and ask to be a friend of mine. I'm Captain Jeff, Captain CAPTAIN Jeff, and I'll say, if I like you, I'll say, okay, I accept you as my friend. No, I'll accept everybody. And then I'll try to be good about making sure that I'm checking in everywhere so you know where we are. And then we'll announce where we're going to have these impromptu meetups on Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So make sure you follow us. Also, the live recording, the APG show and AvGeek podcast friends, live recording at the Courtyard by Marriott at around 7 o'clock on Saturday night. And remember, only 60 people can fit in that room, so it's going to be a tight fit, I believe, and I'm hoping that everybody will be able to attend that. If not, we'll do this in shifts or something, or maybe we can get away with getting more people in there. Just don't tell the fire department. Let's see. That's all I have to say about that. So, looking forward to Wings over Pittsburgh. Oh, no, I have one more thing to talk about. The organizer of or the Air Operations Director, I should say, Captain Richard Bell, USAF, Wings over Pittsburgh 2017, sent me an email. He said, I heard that some folks were flying in for the show, but not going to be flying directly into the Pittsburgh International Airport, KPIT. I put together a list of airports that would be good options for people and have easy access to KPIT from the crazy highway system. He put that in all caps. He's yelling, from the crazy highway system we have around Pittsburgh. I would try to avoid Allegheny County Airport. And I think that I've recommended that to a couple people, sorry. So he says, I would try to avoid Allegheny County Airport. It's very difficult to get across town. I would also try to avoid Washington County Airport and Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Both are nice pieces of pavement, but it can take upwards of an hour or a 2-hour round trip or more to get down there and back. So let me know if it helps these guys out. Okay, will do. Thank you, Rick. So now the airports that he recommends, if you're going to fly your general aviation airplane up there, is the first one on the list is Beaver County Airport, 4,500 foot paved strip, and the fuel there, the 100 low-level fuel, $4.99 a gallon. Jefferson County Airport is the second one that he recommends, 5,000 feet of paved runway, 100 low-level fuel, $4.40 per gallon. Butler County Shoulter, I'll put all this in the show notes, by the way, you don't have to write this down right now. 4,800 foot paved runway, the gas there, $4.90 per gallon. And the last one, how would you pronounce that? Zelienople Airport, KPJC, 4,900 foot paved runway. The fuel is $5 per gallon. So please check the show notes for those 4 general aviation airports that he recommends if you're flying your airplane in for the meetup. Okay, so thank you, Captain Richard Bell, for that bit of information. Hopefully that'll help somebody, and I will let you know if it does. Okay, and then finally, if you want your own, and you're not going to be able to make it to the Wings Over Pittsburgh show, if you want your own APG Over Pittsburgh shirt that you can find on Redbubble, and the way you get there and to the Airline Pilot Guy show page is by going to the airlinepilotguy.com website and then clicking on the APG store link. And if you want to go directly there, it's airlinepilotguy.com/store. There you'll find the Wings Over Pittsburgh shirts, not in camouflage, I'm sorry to say, and other shirt designs. So check it out if you would want some APG merch. Okay, I think that's it for my notes there. Looks like now would be a good time to quickly talk about the coffee fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee? No thanks.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love a job and it loves me. Coffee and tea, and I didn't mean to turn it off. I guess I need to keep singing. In the background, I can't sing and talk at the same time, so we'll just play that again in the background while I talk about the Coffee Fund. And there are 2 ways to contribute to the show via the Coffee Fund. One is what we call the Coffee Fund Classic method, and that is via PayPal. And since the last show, we have a couple people that contributed using that method, and they are John Wozni and Brandon Gonzalez. I'm going to talk about Brandon a little bit later in the show. He sent us some feedback. I believe John did too. So thank you guys for using the Coffee Fund Classic method of the Coffee Fund. And we also have something called Patreon. If you want to become a patron of the show, use patreon.com/airlinepilotguy. And we have 2 new producers of the show, Mike Blackburn and Peter Juhas. I probably didn't pronounce that. It probably wasn't even close to proper pronunciation, but I gave it a shot. So Peter and Mike are 2 new producers via Patreon. So thank you very much for your support, everyone. If you want to become part of the cadre yourself, head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. I don't know why I haven't fixed that darn thing. I should fix it to fade, and I haven't done that. It's always one thing that I forget to do. Oh well. So now let's move on to the news. Nicholas tells me I've pronounced Peter's name perfectly. It's Hungarian. Yay. Sometimes I get lucky. Thank you for that. Let's start off with, and somebody sent me a piece of feedback on this. I forgot who. Anyway, I forgot who sent this to me. And anyway, it's from Flying Magazine. A California man was sentenced to 10 months in prison for illegally piloting a Cessna Citation and a Falcon 10 jet for paying passengers. On April 27, 2016, Arnold Gerald Leto III was arrested on federal charges of illegally piloting a private airplane from Los Angeles to Las Vegas without a pilot's license. The Department of Justice and FAA determined that Leto had illegally piloted a number of flights dating back to at least 2015, and he ultimately pleaded guilty to the charges. This week, Leto was sentenced to 10 months in federal prison and required to pay a $5,500 fine. In January of 2015, he took paying passengers from Santa Monica to Phoenix, despite never having received a type rating for a turbojet-powered airplane. For that trip, he served as the sole pilot of a Cessna Citation. By the way, I believe that Citation was not certified for single pilot operation. It was you're required to have 2 pilots, and so not only did he fly the airplane by himself in against the regulations, but he also didn't have a type rating, nor did he have any of the proper licensing to fly that kind of airplane. And he also flew a Falcon 10, a twin-engine Falcon 10, on a trip from Van Nuys to Las Vegas, where there were 8 passengers. This was on April 8th, 2016. And I'm not sure. Yeah, he was flying that solo as well. Again, requires 2 pilots. Wow. So he got, as I said, 10 months in prison and a $5,500 fine. I think he got off pretty lightly for not, doing the right thing and actually getting proper licensing and such. Definitely endangered the flying public. So good to see that he was busted. Let's go on. This was actually kind of breaking news. Sometime earlier today, the 5th of April, a air cargo carrier's short SD-330 flying on behalf of United Parcel Service, UPS, was flying from Louisville, Kentucky to Charleston, West Virginia with 2 crew members. They were on final approach to Charleston's Chuck Yeager Airport, runway 5 at 6:53 local time in the morning, when the aircraft impacted trees and terrain to the left of the runway. The aircraft burst into flames and was destroyed. The airport reported it appeared that one of the aircraft's wings hit the runway surface, and the aircraft went off to the left of the runway into a hill. Another report said that actually when the left wing hit the runway surface, it broke off and then the fuselage and airplane just cartwheeled off to the left. One of the unusual things about this airport is that any of you familiar with West Virginia, especially Charleston, the state capital, know that the terrain around that area is not flat in the least bit. It's just a very, very hilly, almost mountainous area. And so they basically leveled off the top of one of these mountains and put the airport there. And that means that when you land on the runway, if you go off the runway, either off either end or off either side, it's very likely that before long you're going to be heading down into a very steep drop-off. And that's what happened here. Both occupants, the pilot and co-pilot, were killed, unfortunately. Rest in peace. The NTSB has opened an investigation, and weather at the time, let's see, a few clouds at 100 feet, so kind of a low-level scud. 500 overcast, so the ceiling was 500 feet above the ground. Temperature 14, dew point 13. They also have a note in here about valley fog, so that usually means kind of a low fog close to the ground and very thin. And they're not sure if that has something to do with this accident or not. I'm sure it probably does have something to do with it. Looks like the airport is closed by NOTAM until tomorrow, the 6th of May. And as I said, they're investigating this accident. Just so tough to see something like this. But apparently something went wrong there toward the end of their approach and landing, and they crashed and perished. Let's see. Let's move on to China. Let's go over to the other side of the world. COMAC, the commercial aircraft manufacturer. I believe that's what COMAC stands for. Anyway, they've been working on an airplane for several years now, and today, I believe, was, or yesterday, very recent, made their maiden flight with the C919. And let's see, I have a little bit of video of this if you want to watch together. So let me set this up here and we can all watch it together. And let me get back to the window that I am in there. Hi. Share screen. There we go. And let's see, there it is. And let's see if we can hear something as well. Okay, it's rolling for takeoff. That thing looks a lot like an Airbus, doesn't it? All right, it's rolling for takeoff. There's some more sound here. That's all it. Okay, it's rolling for takeoff in Shanghai.
International Airport. China's first large passenger jet is about to take off. This is C919, first maiden flight. Now it's taking off.
Right now it's already taking off.
Nice view of the nose wheel extension. On these maiden flights, they almost always leave the landing gear extended. So no gear retraction here. And off it goes. As I said, it looks a lot like most modern twin-engine narrow-body airplanes. Now here's a view from the inside of the cockpit. And the test pilots wearing their bright orange jumpsuits, flight suits, are up there flying the thing. Looks like everything is going swimmingly well. So, while you watch that, let me read a little bit about this airplane. The twin-engine narrow-body C919 is presented as a competitor to the Airbus 320 and the Boeing 737. The airliner was produced by the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China. There we go, COMAC, a national enterprise established in 2008 with the ambitious plan of producing China's first successful passenger jet. And that's the end of the video. So let me get back here to... There I am. Okay. I saw an interesting article about the C919. said, how much of it is really made in China? There's a nice graphic here. Let me see if I can share that with you as well if you're watching the video. I know that most of you aren't, but if you are, you can watch it with me. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. The graphic here shows many of the parts of the airplane. The engines, of course, are from are made by CFM. They're CFM 56s, used in many narrow-body airplanes, including the narrow-body Airbuses as well as the Boeing 737 and other airplanes as well. Thrust reversers by a French company. Yeah, the engine is the CFM LEAP 1 engine, the most modern, latest generation engine that they manufacture. Wing anti-icing from a German company, Honeywell, APU, Flight Recorder, General Electric, fuel system, Parker Aerospace, a U.S. company. Honeywell is for the landing gear, a fire detection system from a UK company, KID. Not sure how you pronounce that. I would say KID probably. Rockwell Collins for the simulator systems, cockpit, a lot of the components in the cockpit made by Eaton, E-A-T-O-N, a U.S. company. Well, you get the idea. A bunch of this airplane is not made in China, believe it or not, but it probably won't be long before all of it will be, because it isn't everything made in China. Anyway, back to my video here. Okay, so that was kind of cool to see that China is trying to get into the game, along with the big boys, Boeing and Airbus, and of course the smaller players in the game. Recently, Bombardier. Of course, they've been in the game for a while, but their newest C-series jets, etc. So should be could be interesting out there. A lot of competition, which is the competition's good, right? It forces prices down and increases innovation. So that's good to hear. All right, that's enough of the news. And now let's get on to the best part of the show, which, of course, is your feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
Sorry, Bruce. I think I just woke you up. My bad. Okay, let's see here. Let's start off today with Medrod. Hello, my name is Medrod, and I have a question. So I want to become an airline pilot. I'm 19 years old, and I've already got my FAA certificate to be able to fly, and I want to start flight school in summer. I guess he means he already has his medical certificate, perhaps. First question I have is, with the technology that we have today, and we will have higher technology in the future, and I want to know that what do we need? First thing you need to do is get so let me try to work out this sentence here. The first question I have is, with the technology that we have today, and we will have higher technology in future, want to know that, do we still need a pilot? Yes, we still need a pilot. Obviously, Mayrod has not listened to the show very much. A new listener. Yes, we need a pilot. We're going to have pilots. We're going to have pilots long after I pass from this world. So don't worry. It's still a good career field to get into. They're not getting rid of pilots for a long, long time. I don't care what the people out there say that disagree with me. You're wrong. We're going to be around for a while. Well, I might not be. I'm going to be forced to retire in 6.5 years, so I won't be flying these things in the future, but trust me, there will always be a human with flying skills aboard an airplane. Let's see, he continues. I mean, is it worth it that I'm going to flight school this summer, 2017? Yes, it's worth it. Next question is, what measure do you recommend for a 4-year degree? What measure? Oh, he means major. I would major in something that you want to do in case it doesn't work out in the flying career. So if you're interested in being a lawyer or an accountant or whatever, do that. So whatever your plan B is, whatever job it is that if you couldn't be an airline pilot, what do you want to do instead? That is what I get my degree in, because as many of you know out there, it doesn't always go the way you want it to go. So as much as you want to be a pilot in the airlines, they may not want you. So you might want to have that backup plan, and that's what I get my degree in. Now, I am not a good example. I guess I really can't say that, because if I couldn't fly, I'd still want to do something in the aviation world, and I ended up getting a degree in aviation management, which is kind of a generic degree, kind of a business degree and a sort of an engineering degree. At the time, it was in the School of Engineering at Auburn University, so I took a bunch of engineering courses. I figured that if I couldn't make it or cut it as a pilot, then I could do something else in the world of aviation. And many people listening to this show right now, you know what I mean. You're doing something in the field of aviation. It's not flying airplanes, but you're still enjoying your job, and so that's what I would have done as well. But let's say you want to be a musician, perhaps. Many pilots are musicians, myself included. So if you think that maybe a career in music is something you might want to pursue if you can't make it in the aviation world, then I get a degree in music. It doesn't matter if you have an engineering degree or a science degree or a mathematical degree or whatever. It just matters if you have a degree. So that's my advice. So Mayrod, thanks for your feedback. Hopefully your journey will be a nice, smooth one. Mark sent some feedback. He says, "Good day. Fairly new but avid listener to the podcast streams all the way over in Sydney, Australia, although Brit by birth from the county of Surrey. Absolutely love what you guys and gals do on the show. A great mix of people. The time just flies by when tuning in." Yeah, it does. We're actually not even quite to the hour point yet, which is good because I'm doing the solo. Things are moving a lot faster than they normally do, so that's cool. Anyway, he says, "Excuse any typos as it's pretty late here." Okay, I'll give you a break, Mark. "Despite having a passion for flying and even once a career aim to be a pilot, I suffered a traumatic event that resulted in very bad PTSD, which later manifested itself in all forms of anxiety, and flying became much harder, albeit as a passenger. Probably a good thing I didn't get my wings. I don't suffer any irrational fear of crashing, just the fear of the fear. As I do a fair amount of flying, I just have to push through it. So for me personally, hearing you talk really relaxes me about flying. The general public has very little access to pilots, and it's great to hear the speak from the other side of the door, so I thank you all. You are welcome. I initially was confused about this Acme Airlines. I even Googled it to no joy. How could this now infamous airline not be found on the internet? Silly me. Yeah, it's a fictional airline. Because just quickly, if you're new to the show, I fly for a real legacy carrier here in the U.S., but I don't want to be an official representative of the company, although I love the airline for which I fly, and I would never say anything bad about it. But I don't have permission to represent the company, so I say that I fly for Acme Airlines, and it's just better that way, I think. He continues, "One of my funniest in-flight experiences was after a rather heavy landing in Jersey, UK. All the oxygen masks came out of their compartments, and in a mad panic, all the passengers rushed to put them on. I found this quite amusing, although did wonder if there was a stern wind blowing in from France and perhaps the pilots were trying to protect the Brits." Ooh, nationalistic humor, huh? That said, I wouldn't laugh if this was at flight level 370. Yeah, that would have been the right thing to do. Although a hard landing at 370, that might be kind of weird. But yes, it is amusing that folks put on oxygen masks on the ground because, as we know, the people that are in the know, the oxygen masks are there not for anything but keeping you conscious and not succumbing to hypoxia. Anyway, He says he has a couple of questions for us. Oh, darn it. One's for Captain Nick. Acme Red, one of my favorite airlines, flies to some of the best destinations in the world, so it must be a great airline to work for. What would a typical schedule be? Do you get any choices for destinations? And how long would you typically stop over on a typical long-haul flight to the Caribbean or Far East? Well, I can sort of answer that one because I know Captain Nick. I've known him for a while, and I know his schedule. His airline in particular, Acme Red, is different than the airline, the types of airlines that most of us fly for here in the U.S. It's not a seniority-based system. I think there is some seniority involved there, but it's different. It seems that Captain Nick doesn't always get to fly where he wants to fly. I think he has a way of requesting. He prefers certain destinations over others, like perhaps the one that he is on right now. The trip he's on right now to Lagos, Nigeria, is not one of his favorites. He would not have picked that. In fact, I think he was supposed to be on a trip to John F. Kennedy International in New York, which he enjoys very much. But they switched it at the last minute, told him he was going to Lagos instead. And I'm not sure, how much control he has over that. Doesn't seem like he does. He's been with Acme Red for quite some time, so you'd think that he'd have the seniority to say, no. But typically he'll fly trips to New York, Detroit, Atlanta, Lagos, sometimes some Caribbean destinations. And it seems like most of the time he's there for 48 hours or 2 days, 2 nights, before he flies back. One long flight back, one long flight over and one long flight back. And sometimes he'll fly over on the long haul and then get a 24-hour break and then back. But that's the kind of stuff that he does with Acme Red. I'm sure he would fill in more of the blanks, more of the details there if he was with us, but he's not. Perhaps he'll have something to add when he returns next week. Continuing with Mark's feedback, he says, for all, apologies for the broad question. The dreaded mid-flight seatbelt sign is something that sets off my unusual levels of anxiety. So, on short-haul flights, we seem to experience more turbulence than the longer trips. Is this due to larger aircraft, routing, or a combination? How long does a heavy turbulence typically tend to last? Does it get worse in the tropics or around the equator? Okay, so let's see. Let's start with seatbelts. Short-haul flights, you're spending a greater percentage of your flight in the climb and descent phases, and you're more likely to encounter turbulence in the lower altitudes, especially the mid-teens. Number one. Not always, but you're more likely to, I would say. The routing does make a difference, especially the longer routes over the Nat tracks over the North Atlantic. Sometimes there are areas of some significant turbulence, and they're pretty much at most altitudes, so not a lot they can do about it. But I can say that trips down to the equatorial regions, the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or the ITCZ, definitely you're going to have turbulence, because that's basically where thunderstorms are born, or huge storms, hurricanes, cyclones, that kind of thing, are spun off from the Intertropical Convergence Zone, because that's where the air patterns, the wind patterns, the pressure gradients from the hemispheres, they're different. They're opposite of each other. And of course, right there at the equator, or very near it, depending on the time of year or the tilt of the Earth, that's where all these air masses are coming together. And one air mass is going one direction, and the other air mass is going the other. And when you have that kind of a mixture of competing air masses, you end up getting some bad weather. And usually associated with that bad weather is not so great turbulence. So yes, it does have something to do with it. Where you're flying, what time of year you're flying. If you're the kind of person that doesn't like turbulence, and most people are like that, I recommend, especially this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere, in the spring and the summertime and early fall, that if you don't like it, try to schedule flights early in the day, because that's when you're more likely going to be avoiding significant turbulence. You're going to avoid those afternoon thunderstorms and that kind of thing. So that's my recommendation. Yeah. So Mark ends saying, appreciate you may not be able to answer all of my questions. Well, I did my best. Thank you, Mark, for your feedback from Sydney, Australia. I'm looking over here at the chat room and I see Stephanie's there. I thought your flight was supposed to leave. She's still here, I guess. Anyway, miss you. Wish you were here with me. I wish Nick and Dana were as well, but I'm doing my best. Hopefully I'm entertaining everybody. Okay. Moving on. Let's see what Wayne has to say here. Hello, Captain Jeff, Dr. Steph, Captain Nick, and First Officer Dana. My name is Wayne Johnston, and I've been enjoying your podcast for a few years and contributed to the Coffee Fund from time to time. Thank you. I should ring the bell for that. I was listening to Neville Bound's interview for APG with Adam Spink. Sorry if I misspelt Adam's surname. No, you didn't. That was correct. Regarding his recent trip to Heathrow Control Tower with Matt and Carlos from Plane Talking UK and Pilot Pip Plane Safety Podcast. All interviews that the guys did with Adam were very interesting. I think it would be like working on the biggest train set in the world, only not working with trains but planes. Anyway, it got me thinking of one of the discussion topics in Nev's interview. It was around aircraft separation. To maximize utilization of aircraft movements at Heathrow, separation of flights are getting smaller and smaller. I believe it used to be 6 miles, and now it's 5. I saw a photo from a following plane of an Airbus A380 on short final through low cloud, and I saw the very large hole that the 380 punches and the downward vortices it created. This got me thinking, do aircraft require more separation in calm wind as opposed to windy days in order to let disturbed air settle or pass through? Hope this makes sense. Looking forward to seeing who might be best equipped to comment on my question. Well, it's going to be me. Would love to catch up with anyone if you have some time. I'm not in your part of the world, or when I'm in your part of the world, or vice versa. Brisbane in Australia is somewhat detached from APG impromptu catch-ups. Yes. I've been to Brisbane, by the way. Beautiful place. Also, I'm enjoying Dana's input on the in the Mad Dog corner. He's a guy I'd like to barbecue and smoke some meat with, along with a few IPAs. Well, Dana doesn't drink IPAs, but we'll drink the IPAs with you, and you can eat your smoked meat with Dana. Of course, I love smoked meat, too. Anyway, yeah, he's a great guy. Love Dana. Wayne continues, thanks again for the ongoing enjoyment you're bringing to all of us on top and down under the globe. Regards, Wayne Johnston. Okay, so yeah, they talked a lot about the reduced separation criteria, especially what they're doing at Heathrow with those great interviews with Adam Spink. By the way, he's a great guy as well. It was great getting a chance to converse with him at the Break Pad restaurant, and I still think that's a very funny name for a bar and restaurant. But anyway, the Break Pad, not too far from the Atlanta International Airport. The reduced separation, I don't know all the details, but basically they're basing the separation now on weather and especially the wind patterns. And your sense is correct, Wayne, that when the winds are calm, you're probably going to need more space because those wake vortices that you're seeing there are going to hang around longer. And if I remember correctly, the way a wake vortices disperses or propagates is from the wingtips, and they go outward anywhere from about 1 to 5 knots. I think the bigger the airplane, the heavier the airplane, the little bit faster, and also has something to do with the speed of the airplane as well. And the way that they propagate downward, if I remember correctly, it's like 300 to 500 feet per minute. So when you don't have the fog or some other kind of airborne condensate to show you those or picture those vortices, you have to kind of picture them in your head. And that's one of the things a good pilot will be thinking about when they're flying behind, and it's, visual meteorological conditions, not instrument conditions. where you can actually see everything around you. You can see the airplane ahead of you. You have to kind of take that into account, and the sharp pilots that I fly with go, maybe we should ride a little bit higher on the glide slope to avoid that wake vortices or the wake turbulence, or maybe we should fly a little bit to the left because that's going to be upwind of the vortices, etc. That's a smart thing to do. But the thing that they're doing at Heathrow is a very smart thing as well, by adjusting the separation based on the wind conditions at the airport. And one of the interesting things you have to think about is that if it's a very light wind and it's a very light crosswind, so that airplane ahead of you throwing off that vortices, let's say that the wind is coming from left to right, you have to kind of picture in your head that wake turbulence, that wake vortices is going to, or vortice is going to be staying in that position because it's trying to propagate sideways at 1 to 5 miles per hour, and if you have 1 to 5 knots, if you have a wind that's 1 to 5 knots, guess what? It's going to hold that wake vortice in position, and the other one's going to be scooted off. You don't have to worry about that one. So a lot of things that we have to think about when we are following airplanes landing at big busy airports, especially behind large or heavy or jumbo airplanes. But looks like Heathrow has kind of taken the whole calculus out of it by just adjusting that separation based on their scientific calculations and readings and such. So I'm sure that we're going to see more of that at airports around, other airports around the UK, in Europe, and the US as well in the future. So great question, Wayne. And I'll let Dana know that you want to meet up with them in Brisbane for smoked meat and IPAs, although make sure you have a nice bottle of bourbon on hand for Dana. Okay. Man, one of the things that I forgot about when you're doing a show by yourself is that I don't have time to sit back and listen to somebody else talk and drink my beer. So hang on, bear with me. Ah, that stuff's swill. I'm drinking Corona. Ugh. All right. Rob writes in a previous episode you joked about flying to the Cayman Islands. I've noticed how composites have led to some great new designs such as Icon, IKON, and Dornier Sea Star, two great, I think they're amphibious airplanes. The inherent corrosion resistance must be a real bonus. Made me wonder how much freedom does a pilot have to land on lakes and in the sea in locations of their choice. Ooh, I meant to do some research on this, Rob. I don't know. While they seem like the ultimate freedom machine, I imagine there are more restrictions than may be apparent at first. I bet you're right. I don't know. Anybody in the chat room know anything about the rules when it comes to landing on lakes and in sea? I know that I bet Dr. Steph does, if she's still here with us. She has a seaplane rating. I think she's the only one of us in the APG crew that does have a seaplane rating. So we'll see if she gets back with us on that. Are there restrictions, or can you just land on any darn lake or river or anywhere in the sea? I'm sure there must be restrictions. If we don't answer it on today's show, Rob, I'll try to make a note of that fact and try to answer your question on a future. Yeah. Oh, Miami Hick says rule number 1, stay above the water. I guess you can go right on the water, but not below it. I would recommend against going under the water. That would be my advice. Yes, I guess Steph now has boarded the airplane, is taxiing out, so she cannot help us out. So Jeff Ward says in the U.S. It varies by state, and the Seaplane Pilots Association has a guidebook of the bodies of water where landing is allowed. Okay, yeah. As we suspected, Rob, there are restrictions. Also restrictions landing in parks, etc. So your sense was correct. Rob continues, on a related and different note, do simulators have programming to simulate ditching at sea? You've mentioned the challenge of trying to simulate some of the stall conditions that have been at issue lately. In a similar manner, would ditching be hard to simulate with little hard data? I guess all you can do is practice a low-speed glide to the theoretical sea level, but like a helicopter pilot might practice an auto-rotation. Or, I'm sorry, a bit like a helicopter pilot practicing an auto-rotation. Yeah, you know, I've never seen, and none of the simulators that I've been in, at least nobody's ever shown it to us, simulate ditching at sea. And I believe it's partly because of the fact that they probably don't have a lot of hard data, as you surmise, and maybe it's just, you know, because every situation is going to be different, every swell condition is going to be different, etc. I don't know. Maybe the more advanced simulators do have ditching at sea simulations built in. I don't know. I've never seen it myself, and I've been doing simulators for a long time, but most of the airplanes that I've flown are older technology airplanes, and the associated simulators are as well. So yeah, so I don't think so. That would be my answer. Could be wrong, but yeah, there you go. Thank you, Rob, for sending in the feedback, and hopefully I got about 75% of that. You're right, though, about the composites and corrosion. That's one of the advantages of composite fuselages, like the Nick likes to call it the bin liner, the 787 Dreamliner, is that they can handle a higher delta P. Let me get a better ding. Delta P, which is the pressure differential, and also they can put higher levels of humidity in the cabin because metal corrosion is not a factor. So, you know, it might be a little bit more comfortable for the passenger with a little bit more humidity inside the cabin. And again, as I said, the composites allow for that because you don't have to worry about metal fatigue, metal corrosion, etc. Let's see. Lane Street says in Microsoft Flight Simulator, FSX, you can ditch in water if the plane has float-type contact points. Okay. Well, there you go. Okay, I'm taking a little break here. Jeff, does Jeff need to be a moderator? Do you think we should trust Jeff Ward? I don't know. Okay, there you go. All right, moving on. This might be a nice time to acknowledge our Coffee Fund cadre, the 3 top-level contributors, our executive producers and up. And so while I do that, let me play a little bit of coffee-related music. By the way, that kind of irks me. Last show I did this. This music, by the way, is podcast-safe music. I got it specifically to play on a podcast, and I wasn't going to be violating any copyright. Well, you all know the story with the Java Jive. It's not copyrighted, it's public domain. And the music that I played last week is also public domain, and yet these companies still claim that I'm violating their contract, or their, not their contract, their copyright. Ugh, where does it end? So let me try this one, see if I get nabbed for this one as well. This is Chaz, Black Coffee.
I like my coffee and I drink it
So,
black.
yeah,
I don't want
Chaz,
sugar,
take it
so
down a
please
notch.
take it back, yeah. Tastes like heaven, it's as hot as hell. I gotta have you, gotta get my feel,
Chaz is not
yeah.
cooperating. There we go. Okay, let's start with the executive producers, $5 per episode and up. Chris Elrod, Dispatcher Mike, Justin Williams, Eric Graves, John Feldman, Robert Fairbairn, Dr. Bo Abrahamson, Christopher Klemick, Justin Breeze, Trevor Moody, Joe Driver, David Collier, Bill Bates, Ross Ridley, Steve Nass, George Nolly, Ken Hayes, Randall Shepard, David Villeneuve, Richard Miller, Larry Geezer, Gregory, Zebulon Dawson, Jonathan Turfcore, Mike Clark, Liz Piper, Chris and Tanya, Andrew Espig, Stephen Wisniewski, Adrian Meacham, Kenneth Ludwig, and Jim G. Thank you all for being executive producers of the Coffee Clan Cadre, actually executive producers of the Airline Pilot Guide Show. Associate Senior Executive Producers, $10 and up. Eduardo Suarez, Stephen Ward, Neville Bounds, Michael Benson. Thank you guys for being part of that exclusive group. Just 4 of you at the $10 per episode and up level. Thank you. And then finally the top level, $20 per episode or more. And we have Lucas Diamond, the Flying Kiwi, and finally Asa Armin, who has been with us from, I think, just about the beginning of the Patreon patrons at this senior executive producer level. Awesome. You are all awesome. Hey, if you want to be part of the cadre, especially the upper level, head over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. Again, thanks so much to all of you for any contribution you give us. It's definitely a motivating factor for us.
I want black coffee, cause one cup is never enough. I want it right now, right now, right now.
Ah, the soundboard's always acting up. Okay, unfortunately, this company that makes this soundboard, they stopped working on it years ago. Just hanging out there to die. Let's see. Louisiana Steve wrote in, and he said, "Hello, Captain Jeff, the APG crew. Please see the attached audio feedback and the links that are associated with it." And let's hear. He sent us some audio feedback. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hello, Captain Jeff, APG crew, and the APG community. My name is Louisiana Steve. I'm recording today in Little Rock, Arkansas. I find myself working here all week. And the reason for making this recording is to get your opinion on the much discussed pilot shortage. Now we've heard about this pilot shortage for many years now, and haven't really seen much come of it, to be honest. Well, the FAA just released their latest data, and it looks like things could be changing. For example, in 2016, we had 8,000 applicants taking the ATP written exam. But for 2017, if current trends continue, we'll probably end the year with less than 3,000. That's quite a drop-off, and probably quite concerning for the airlines. We can see some real data showing that the availability of pilots is going to be reducing in future. So what are they going to do about it? Are we going to see age 65 become age 67? Are we going to see regional flying absorbed by the mainline? Or perhaps we'll see that regionals finally pay a basic living wage for the pilots. That's good news for wannabe airline pilots like myself. It's probably going to cause some difficult times for the airlines. We also have some other interesting data. For example, in 2007, we had 2/3 of commercial certificates being issued to U.S. citizens. But in 2016, this number had fallen to less than half. So it's not only the airlines that are going to be struggling. We're going to see Part 135 and Part 91 operators struggle to fill their left seats. This obviously will compound itself to affect the airlines. And Part 135 and Part 91 is part of the pipeline to supply these pilots. So how are we going to get around this? Without making flying more affordable, isn't much we can do. Will the US actually begin importing pilot labor? Is that the level we're at now? We just can't get the pilots that we require? It's going to be an interesting couple of years. I myself am working on my certificates right now. I'm hoping to be in a regional within the next maybe 18 months to 2 years. But the reason I held off as long as I did, I'm in my mid-30s, is because the wages offered. I couldn't afford it. I have a wife, 3 children. I couldn't afford to go and make $25,000 a year. So fingers crossed, this is signs of improvement. This is the airline industry treating its pilots like it should. Well, clear skies, tailwinds as always, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Louisiana Steve, for your feedback. And yeah, so this pilot shortage thing, where many people for so long said it's all made up, not really, fake news. No, it's real. Has not really significantly impacted the majors yet. It will, but I say significantly. It has to a less significant amount affected even the major airlines such as mine, Acme, because the quality of the folks that are coming in for interviews is going down. And we're hiring people that people tell me kind of under their breath would be the kind of people they'd never hire like 10, 20, 30 years ago. But it's necessary because we need to keep these cockpits filled with pilots. And they're doing their best, but I forgot what the exact, I think out of 100 applicants or people who have interviews at Acme Airlines, about 75% or so are hired. So, you know, it's a good, that number would probably have been much higher years ago, but now it's going down. A lot of good ideas that you proposed there in ways to kind of help alleviate the shortage, at least short term, like extending the retirement age to 67.5. I'd heard that rumor several times, but then again, I've heard rumors that say that there is no way that they're even going to touch that. They're going to leave it at 65 forever, but who knows? The military is really hurting, maybe even more badly than the civilian flying world, and there may be some interesting solutions to helping with the shortage in the military services here in the U.S. and the airlines as well. So we may come up with some kind of a hybrid solution for that. Who knows? What I can tell you is that old geezers like me, I'm sure they're not going to say, hey, we need you to fly some stuff in the military as well as your airline stuff. And I really don't want to do that anyway, but I don't think that's going to be something that happens. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm sure that, the FAA and Congress is going to have to alter some things in the future because it's just going to get worse until it gets better. But the good news, as you say, is that they're finally looking at this thinking, how did we get here? Why is it that people aren't going into this career field? Maybe all this cost cutting and lowering wages for this career field and benefits, everything else, has pushed people away into other fields. Yes, that's what's happened. And so now they're finally taking a look at raising pay and increasing benefits, etc. But I'm hoping it's not too little, too late. Thank you again, Louisiana Steve, for the feedback. This is something that I'm sure many of you saw, this piece of video. Richard Nash sent this link to me, but I'm sure that there are several other links. Actually, I ended up finding this one on YouTube. This was in Washington State, an airplane taking off from Payne Field, a general aviation airplane. Here, let me get over here to this so I can share my screen with you. Shortly after takeoff from Payne Field, some dash cam video ended up capturing this dramatic footage. All right, we see an intersection, an airplane coming to view. Boom! Wow, big fireball. Looks like a major motion picture. What was that, a Cherokee or something like that? It was a Piper low wing, single engine, 6-place airplane coming into view and to the picture. If you're not watching the video, hitting I'll put a link to it in the show notes so you can watch it yourself, hitting some wires and hitting the traffic light stanchion and then disappearing from view in the frame. But apparently the airplane ended up crashing, I guess, crash landing without injuring, or at least not killing anybody. I'm sure that somebody must have been killed. I mean, injured in that, but I guess a good outcome. And nobody on the ground was injured either. So thought I'd mention that for today's show. And again, a story about that particular incident and the video that we just watched, if you're on the live video, will be in the show notes for you to watch as well if you haven't already seen it. But not sure what the deal is with that. Looked like the engine was still running, the propeller was still turning. Not sure exactly what caused this accident, if it was overloaded or if they ended up stalling or what. I don't know. Maybe you know. If you do, let us know. So getting back over here to our feedback, Ken says, it's May 2nd, 2017. I'm sitting at my home office, a little frustrated. I only need 4.5 hours, 4.5 more hours of solo time. And for almost 3 weeks in a row, the wind in Louisville has been too high to fly. It ranges from 8 knots with 17-knot gusts to 20 and 30 knots variable. I've completed all my cross countries, my night flight requirements, etc., and have been keeping sharp on my home flight simulator. Yes, I went all out. 3-screen sim with all the controls running X-Plane 11. I travel often for work, fly Delta, and look forward to meeting the crew during one of my many flights through the Atlanta airport, my home away from home. Just a quick note to all of you that I thoroughly enjoy the show. Listening to all of you and your insights, stories, opinions helps to keep my aviation passion alive. I'm a Navy veteran, served 6 years in submarine duty, and decided it was time to get above the ocean and land at 50 years old. I started late in my life, but never realized what I was missing. I love the aviation world, the people, the learning process, and really looking forward to getting my private pilot license. Keep up the great podcasts. Ken. Thank you, Ken. I'm glad that we're an inspiration to you, and you are an inspiration to us. That if you have a passion for something, go for it. Larry Geezer sent a link to an article about an Israeli Aircraft Industries Westwind 1124 making an emergency landing at Sarasota Bradenton Airport. And again, this is one of those things that I have some video footage of, and again, that will be in the show notes, goes without saying, even though I'm saying it. And let me share the screen once more. And here we go. Let's see, I'm not sure if we have some audio with this or not. We're going to find out. Might be the news reporter here. So we're looking at a Westwind, Israeli Aircraft Industries twin-engine bizjet coming in. The left main landing gear, here I'm going to stop it for a second. The left main gear is extended. It's down, but there's no tire. So apparently after they took off from their origin, they realized that somebody told them, I guess, that the tire was still at that airport and not with them. So the nose wheel is there. The right main gear assembly is just fine. It's the left side that has a little stick poking down with a little hub on it, but no tire. So it's always good to have rubber there, to kind of help with the friction on the runway and braking and keeping you from sliding off, etc. But apparently, according to the article, this airplane realized they had a problem, went out over the Gulf of Mexico and just held for a while, burning fuel, kind of lightening up the weight of the airplane as much as possible. Their original destination was Tampa International. I believe that's what the article said. And they decided instead to go to Sarasota Bradenton. Now, perhaps I'm misunderstanding something. Maybe they were going to another airport in the Tampa area, maybe not Tampa International, but I'm thinking, if it were me, I'd want to land this thing with the longest runway possible, and Sarasota Bradenton's runway is not as long as the runways at Tampa International, so I would have gone to Tampa International myself, because the more runway, the better, especially in a situation where you're not sure what's going to happen when the airplane touches down. The second thing, and I'll run the video here in a minute to see what happened. I would, in this situation, when I have good right main gear, good nose wheel, and I have a bad situation, no wheel on the left side, I would assume that the left side is going to create more drag. Right? There's not a wheel rolling out there. And so I'm going to try to land on the side of the runway that correlates with the good landing gear. So I would have tried to touch down on the right side of the runway. Now maybe it's different for this airplane. Perhaps this pilot, learned some other technique or whatever for where to land on the runway. But I would have given myself as much runway as possible to my left when I started braking to make sure that I could keep it on the runway. So, me again, I know I'm second guessing here. I would have gone to the airport that has a longer runway and maybe even a wider runway. And I'd also not landed on the center line, but moved to, in this case, the right side. So I'm going to hit the play button here and we'll continue watching what happened.
And he's getting close. Sorry, Josh, he's coming in close. Yes. He's about to touch down right now.
Okay, he's over the overrun area, over the numbers, touching down. He's right on the center line. Okay, there's some
look at the sparks.
Sparks coming from the left strut. And, okay, now he's applying some braking. Now the airplane's kind of wobbling and sliding, and then they slide off the left side of the runway and kind of come to a stop at about a 45-degree angle from the runway heading. And then, of course, everybody comes out. Everybody's fine. Nobody got injured. It was a happy ending. Looks like the passengers all survived, and the airplane looks like they're going to be able to use it again. Maybe not right away. They're going to have to do a little bit of work on it. So it's a great landing. I agree with the commenter. It was a great landing, and but again, I just thought that might be interesting to see, and just kind of get my perspective on the whole thing and what I may have done differently. Again, it's so easy for us to be Monday morning quarterbacks or armchair quarterbacks. Maybe the West Wind 1124. By the way, I think that was manufactured by, what was it, Aero Commander years ago. And then I think that Aero Commander sold the rights to that jet to Israeli Aircraft Industries. And yeah, so it was yeah, as they say, Miami Hicks says, just buff out the paint. It's good. It's all good. So, it's hard to argue with the outcome here. It was a good outcome. The airplane doesn't look like it sustained much damage. But again, I think that perhaps if he had landed on the right side of the runway, he would have had a little bit more latitude to keep the airplane going straight down the runway. Perhaps maybe not applying so much brake pressure right away, letting the speed dissipate a little bit more. Maybe he would have had a little bit more control. Now, one of the things about this particular airplane is they don't have ailerons. I mean, that's another thing I would be doing. I would have had, full ailerons on the good side or toward the good side of the airplane to keep the left wing up as long as possible. But in this case, I believe this airplane doesn't have ailerons. It's just spoilers. So in order to bank the airplane, the spoilers come out on the upper portion of the wing surfaces, and that spoils the lift, and that helps aid in banking the airplane, or that's what banks the airplane. Whereas in most airplanes, the ailerons actually deflect and cause the shape of the wing to change and more lift on one side than the other. And sometimes if you're in a steeper turn, spoilers do also come up to help aid in banking the airplane. But in this case, I don't think that putting the control yoke into the direction of the good gear would have made any difference at all, because it's that kind of system where it's just you're just spoiling lift on the wing. But Again, I'm not an expert. Could be completely wrong about all this, but looks like they got out of it okay. And, hopefully, it won't cost too much more money much money to fix the thing. Okay, let's see. That's enough of that one. Let me get back here to my notes and move on to some audio feedback from Max.
Hey there, APG crew and community. This is Max up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I think the last time I left some feedback for you, I was getting ready for my instrument check ride and was a little bit nervous about that, but I'm glad to let you know that that went great and passed it with flying colors. And since then, I have also completed my multi-engine land. And as of today, May 2nd, 2017, I'm a newly certificated multi-engine land commercial pilot. So, if there's any corporate people out there who need a pilot, just let me know.
Congratulations!
But I'll be going to CFI school here in about 2 weeks. And just wanted to give you an update on what I've been doing and how things have been going. I hope all is well with everybody, and I look forward to hearing your next show. Have a good one. Bye.
Again, congratulations, Max, from everybody on the APG crew and the APG community. We're all clapping. So, way to go! Instrument check ride, multi-engine instrument rating. Wow, that's quite an accomplishment. And yeah, if you need somebody to take you somewhere, call up Max. He's there. He's waiting for you. Thanks for listening, sir, and appreciate your feedback. Okay, here's a good one. Well, they're all good, of course. I don't have any favorites. David writes, just thought I would share my in-depth, hot off-the-press news article with you before it goes onto my website. And this is from David Grant, and we'll put a link to his outstanding, extremely funny website. davidgrantwriter.blogspot.co.uk. Again, don't worry about writing that down. Just look for it in the show notes. So, the article title, Pets for Panicky Pilots. In an effort to meet non-discriminatory standards in aviation, the Federal Aviation Administration has endorsed emotional support animals for pilots that are scared of flying. Yes, you heard us right. Pilots that are scared of flying. The chairman of the FAA, Michael Huerta, this is Michael P. Hurtya, announced yesterday that aviation must be more inclusive and that it needs to attract all sorts of people into its ranks. Although the take-up is expected to be small, a new psychological study may swell the numbers of emotionally challenged student pilots. The Center for Error Research of Stupid Pilots on Landing and Takeoff, that's an acronym, CRSPLAT, believes that a higher level of anxiety in the cockpit may be an advantage in safe flying. They're funding ab initio courses for the first 100 students who apply. These will be asked to bring their pets with them on the course and must first prove that they are highly unstable without them. Not one to miss an opportunity, Brian Air's CEO, Michael O'Reilly, said, I think this is a great idea. We're ready to welcome these new pilots and have plenty of room in the cockpit for pets as they can sit on the jump seats. In fact, I think some nervous passengers might find comfort in knowing that the pilot is more scared of flying than they are. Pilots at Brian Air are already referring to the cockpit as the poop deck. Ooh. O'Reilly added, I believe we may even be able to move some of these pets into the first officer's seat. Chimpanzees have been pilots for NASA, and they would probably be overqualified to fly, say, an MD-88 or MD-90. Very, very funny. Good one here. Let's see if I can find my laugh track. No, I don't have a laugh track all set up. But I'll put one in post, that's for sure. Wow, that is good. By the way, David has sent us stuff in the past, very, very funny stuff. And again, if you're a fan of satire like The Onion and other related sites, please check out his site, davidgrantwriter.blogspot.co.uk. And I think you'll be laughing your head off, as I was last night when I was reading through a lot of his posts. And oh, you know, the other thing that I wanted to mention is David is also a good friend of Captain Jerry. So we haven't heard from Captain Jerry in a while, but just thought I'd throw that one in there as well.